It's true that I can't refuse. Do I trust you or not? And I must trust you as well. If you betrayed me and leaked news of this plan, I would be put in a dangerous situation. Yeah, but she doesn't gain anything from that. Oh, that's true if you think about it. By simply talking about this, I have already placed my bet on you. I'm risking a lot. It makes sense. In exchange, we've got a chance to rescue Zell's dad. You let us have that, right? Indeed, this is a chance. I can give it to you, but whether it comes to fruition or not depends on you wandering dogs. However, if it is possible, I want you to succeed. After all, if you fail and are caught, I seriously doubt you could withstand the many tortures that have been passed down by my people since ancient times. If that happens, then we give them your name or something. It'll probably get sticky for you, right? I will not command you to trust me. However, I want you to decide whether or not you will take this bet. You're free to refuse. However, if you do, you will end up being capped in that underground hotel until things cool down. Even if you accept, you will be under our supervision. Your contact with other people will be limited as well. Even I cannot bear to be betrayed, you see? Either way, we're prisoners. I've already taken on a risk. I hope you give me a little credit. Okay, we'll accept. Are you sure? Yeah, but we'll build a plane by ourselves. All we need for you is information. And what you want is for Father to be rescued, and you don't care what the process of our methods are. Yeah, we wouldn't want to tell you that, then get sold out and caught in a trap. Of course. You do not need to report all the details of your plan to me. However, if your plan is not successful, I cannot finish drawing my picture. Therefore, I will actively pass on and suggest any support and information that I believe might prove useful. Of course, it is up to you to decide whether to use that or not. In the end, you are the ones who will be putting your lives on the line. Details of that nature are no concern of mine. You should iron out a plan and prepare until you are satisfied. If you ask, I am willing to provide further support. If it comes to it, we would be most grateful. Then we're in agreement. I'll assign Xiaolon as a contact and observer between us. Xiaolon, help Zell. If you say so, I would be happiest to. And with that, I ask that all you wandering dogs spend your time here as if it were like your home. I will get you anything you need, of course. I would be happy to offer piping hot tea snacks whenever you like. So, it's okay now, right? We can eat now, right? Charles's stomach made several embarrassing sounds. Totally ruined the tense atmosphere. Charles, you fucking idiot. Yeah, it's okay. Let's eat. We gotta eat a bunch and build up our strength. That's right. Our enemies are the City 22 GDS higher-ups, right? We can't go fighting on an empty stomach. You know, if we really pulled this off, it might make one hell of a legend, huh? Without a doubt. After all, if you brought down the Council of Elders higher-ups, that would surely be a great accomplishment. Would it even surprise Wayne? Of course! It would surely be the greatest operation since the Legendary Night. Wasn't the Legendary Night? That was the huge thing where 7 people, including Wayne, attacked the Kale family. And those were the days. Leo and the others working out their plan to defeat Caleb at this very table. The legendary Leo Shishigami. So Leo and Wayne had their planned meeting here? Leo and the others were here at the time. I believe Wayne was crying and pissing himself. I thought Wayne had been captured by Caleb, so he wasn't here. Shh, let them have their dreams. That's correct. Wayne was also here, helping to build the plan. The trio let out cries of admiration, rubbing their cheeks against the table. Ah, to see Wayne playing the Legendary Knight. Whoa! Maybe we'll become legends too. Interesting. Damn, I'm shivering. Wayne told us before, didn't he? The Legendary Knight might have seemed reckless, but it was done after careful planning and preparation. Yeah, you said it. You said that a carefully laid out plan makes it not a miracle anymore. Let's do it, Wandering Dogs. Zell's our comrade. We'll fulfill our promise. Even if the whole world becomes our enemy, we're on Zell's side. We'll save Zell's dad no matter what. After Charles' enthusiastic reply, his stomach made another embarrassing sound. Tension had finally faded and everyone was smiling again. Lee also wore a cheerful smile, proudly offered tea snacks to the Wandering Dogs. Boom! Yes! Yes! Emblems! Oh, it's been so long since I got more than one. Yes! Thank you. Beyond the window was the inky black darkness of night. However, there were dazzling, dancing jewels scattered about. The nighttime scenery, illuminated by gorgeous Chinese-style lighting, might in itself be considered a form of Chinese art. You see, I think this night view is the accumulated art of my people. True. I think it's part of the soul of your people, with prosperity and countless personalities. And the night view of the American areas in City 23 is filled with their soul. Of course, I'm aware that the Japanese soul exists in 1-liter glass bottles. As to all that's been going on, I'm so very sorry. I heard you were trying to make soy sauce popular, Rose, and I just wanted to support you. Oh, I really must apologize. I was only trying to help. Wing spoke casually as though trying to smooth things over without a hint of malice. However, if there is no universal truth in war, and the only results written about are truth, then the truth in this matter was clear. Wang, let's do away with this farce. You sure? I sort of like this tone, though. Okay, let's both get back to work. Thanks. The joviality vanished from Wang's face, and the dignity and calm of a powerful leader returned. The pair returned to their table and sat down. Their soup was now cold, and the delicious food adorned their table felt plain somehow. That was like felt pain. Is this your message to us in response to us not showing you respect? What do you think? Did you get what we're trying to convey? I do hope your understanding goes beyond mere anger at us for getting in the way of your soy sauce business. It does. I see. Well, that's good. Explaining things to fools is the one thing I'm bad at. This is our power. It is because we have respect for Japanese culture and lifestyles that you are able to live as you do. In the end, hegemoniaism is what rules in this world. The strong swallow up the weak. As a result, their dominion expands without end. However, growing a large area is extremely difficult. Powers eventually decline and split. like the Roman Empire or even ancient China. Our ancestors understood this well. If they expanded their territory too far, it would eventually become impossible to maintain. Greeks, British. If a territory grows vast, it comes in contact with more and more neighboring countries. It gets longer and longer borders that are subject to military tensions. To a large country like China, the individual neighboring countries are no trouble. However, they are determined at all costs to avoid trouble breaking out at multiple points at once. Some people say this is what they thought up in the system of Chinese tribute. Why they did. They made neighboring countries show their respect in exchange for which they respected their neighbors and acknowledged their culture. As a result, the two countries formed a mutual bond of respect, and military tensions relaxed considerably. It's said that Chinese return gifts were greater than what they received, and this became a financial burden for them. However, it was probably much cheaper than spending money on defense for their immense national borders. In other words, there was more to the Chinese system of tribute than simply demanding respect to satisfy their own conceit. It was also a security guarantee that was useful to a country with such a large territory. Let me be clear. You were only able to be Japanese as a reward for the respect you showed us. Why do you think our country, with 10 times the national strength of yours, decided not to destroy the troublesome island nation that blocks the entrance to the Pacific? Why do you think we allowed you to preserve your unique culture? It was because we believed you Japanese respected us as your cultural fathers. However, if we were mistaken in that belief, that changes everything. You mean you will be forced to learn that things we've taken for granted were actually gifts from you to us? Exactly. Wang smiled with an intensely calm face. Felt more cold-blooded than any expression he'd shown so far. Madame Rose, if you are not a fool, then you should already understand my power. That's right. Over the space of a year, Primavera had built a modest utopia based on mutual support between countrymen. Now, thanks to nothing more than the distribution of fake soy sauce, that utopia had struck a moral hazard, which resulted in the city folk and businessmen being driven by commercialism. Fuck. Kill me. This was already beyond the scope of soy sauce culture. Chinatown's distribution network was already sinking its teeth deep into the Japanese areas, thanks to the purchase of fake soy sauce. One after another, people were tossing aside Madame Rose's request that they prioritize deals with their fellow countrymen. They couldn't reject Chinese merchants, with their cheap goods and massive supply, for something as idealistic as mutual aid between countrymen. In distribution, the ones who monopolize and gain more control survived by kicking out the rest. Eventually, the Japanese distributors would go extinct, or else they'd transfer into mere pipes into the Chinatown network. To liken this to a sick person, it was as though they had stopped their own heart and had attached their blood vessels to a mechanical heart outside their body. All of a sudden, or perhaps Rose just hadn't known, sometime in the Japanese regions of City 23 had started relying completely on Chinatown distribution. Perhaps Rose's policy of prioritizing countrymen had just been a temporary fad. Well, it just depends how much in the nationalism the other people are. If they really don't give a fuck, then trying to force people to, really care, oh my god, I'm Japanese, who cares? Right now, if Chinatown stopped dealing with the Japanese for just 1 week, we could throw you into the depths of chaos. With a word, the GDS could probably stop all of Chinatown distributors from sending goods to City 23. Look, I accept. I think it's worth it. Fuck it. Who cares? We can function on our own. We prove how strong we are, right? In other words, the next day all commodities could suddenly disappear from Japanese shopping centers. Even if business owners hurriedly try to change their suppliers, there would be no one to go to. And that's what you fucking get. because by that time the distribution networks run by their countrymen have all withered away. For small and medium businessmen, who were barely managing to get by, it would be as terrifying as lifting their heads above the surface of the water to breathe, only to be dragged down to the bottom again. If they knew the restrictions would end in a week, they might be able to withstand it. However, if it might continue for an uncertain amount or indefinite period, then all Japanese businessmen would be forced out of business. If that happened, the Japanese colony would go extinct. If we wanted to, we could go that far. But we won't. If that isn't because of the love we feel for Japan, our child who inherited our culture, then why would we act that way? There, Wang paused and sipped at his cold soup. However, he quickly made a face and spat it out into his handkerchief. Soup is delicious because it's hot. When it cools down, it isn't worth drinking. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's a waste to throw it away. After all, it's a collaboration between the splendid cooking techniques of our people have honed over 1,000 years and the splendid ingredients that come from your land. This soup's that's made of you and us. What do you say about heating it up again? If this happens, the two of us will be able to share the deliciousness of the soup together. Sounds like a win-win. Happy, happy deal to me. Assuming we show our respect for the GDS, right? Yep, the conditions are just as I said before. Return the wages to the Japanese labor union to the level they were at until last year, and offer 30% of the special offers windows to us. In exchange, you say you'll give us the same lifestyle we've had until now. No, I can promise an even better one than you've had before. As an area under American Army jurisdiction, City 23 may be overflowing with made in the USA, but that doesn't fit the needs of the Japanese. They start driving their big cars in this crime Tokyo, then fuss about how the streets are too narrow. They must be made wider. There aren't people who would even consider making the cars smaller. Hell yeah, brother, because I can't fit my massive dick in a small car. Westerners cannot understand Asia. That's why you can accept made in China. We understand that you'd always take spoiled carrots with agricultural chemicals for 70 cents over fresh carrots for $1. Leave it to us. We'll offer you waves of mass-produced poison vegetables filled with residual chemicals at the incredibly cheap prices you love. Aren't you happy now? We're far too nervous to eat those ourselves, but since the Japanese prefer things that are even a cent cheaper, I'm sure they'll be happy. He was definitely mocking them, but Rose couldn't fight back. Fuck Japanese people, and fuck Chinese people. It was perfectly fitting analogy for the Japanese who had happily sold off the real soy sauce made by those in the soy sauce industry. Sold it off for spare change that they used to buy fake soy sauce. By now, the Japanese didn't even have a culture that paid for things according to their value or their quality. Fools who can't understand how price matches up to worth don't deserve to buy the real thing. They happily buy cheap, inferior, mass-produced products, turning away from the real thing just because it's relatively expensive. Claudia may have been right. If a Japanese person these days was offered pig feed they could eat for $1, they'd probably get excited at how cheap it was and lap it up. Has this instant left you disgusted at the Japanese true nature, Madame Rose? Yes, actually. We are more capable than you of providing them with the lifestyle they deserve right now. The city will be filled with products and prices will drop. Since they don't think about quality, they will probably greet it with applause, saying, "This is the lifestyle I wanted." Haven't you grown tired? Can you just leave the rest to me? That's a bad deal, but as much as fuck the Japanese, Rose is still gonna be like, no, I still want to work with them, I still love them, I still blah blah blah. But like, fuck them, seriously. If they really are this bad, fuck it. What's even the point of trying to save them? Who cares? Let the culture die off. If you're literally nothing more than pigs and hogs, who cares? What's worth preserving? If Japanese businessmen were swallowed up by cheap mass-produced made-in-China goods, they'd go extinct in City 23. All of their countrymen would become more consumers, who simply bought at the asking price. If that happened, they would become less and less able to disobey the GDS. Practically speaking, the city would be ruled by the GDS even more than was now. However, they rejected their subordination. Wang would further strengthen his economic attacks. It would probably consume the whole city, not just the soy sauce. It was no longer possible to preserve the Japanese colony. And yet, if they surrendered, they would probably gradually turn into pets until they died. It was exactly the same as war. You threatening neighbor countries with military force and make them surrender. If they resist, war breaks out, and the strong devour the weak. It was endless repeating of this activity of humanity, which led to the map of the world we see today. Bargaining over the balance of power continues to this day. The world map we're all familiar with might not remain the same, not even just a decade from now. 2012, I don't know, Crimea, I don't know, was in 2012, was it? I think so. I think that would actually, some of the map has changed, possibly. Even that island, which we learned was part of our country in school, which was once painted the same color as our country. In just a few years, that island might be known by the names of two countries call it. And a few years after that, it may be painted the color of another country. Taiwan? I'm not trying to make a point about which country this island belongs to. The point is that even without war, an island or two can easily change countries. Or is it Hong Kong? Japan has only been able to remain... No, it's not a country, right? It's just like... Or, I mean, it's more just a city, more than like a country, I guess. Japan has only been able to remain Japan until today because the oceans all around it have protected it from outside enemies. Now that methods of easily crossing the sea have been invented, there's absolutely no guarantee that Japan will be able to remain Japan. In such an era, the Japanese, who have become a people of a nation defeated in war, may only be able to try and remain Japanese by resisting the gears of history. If matters progress at their current rate, and even left as they are, you will be ruled by us. There are good people who took the real soy sauce, which you got for them after much effort, and exchanged it for cheap. They're a people, not a good people. Fake soy sauce, and it didn't even take that long. Yeah, fuck them. If you still want to protect them, then shouldn't you start by repairing your relations with us as quickly as possible? You may be right. Maybe the Japanese lost their identity, their desire to remain Japanese long ago. There's a proverb stating that only when basic needs are met can people spare decorum. In other words, unless they have margin in their daily lives, the people have no interest in culture. That's just a hierarchy of needs meme right there. Poverty brings simplicity. The poor aren't qualified to have good culture. However, there's still a chance for them to gain the necessary qualifications. If you show respect for us, you'll be able to protect the Japanese communities, which are the final support for your people. For as long as we maintain our respect for you. Of course, right? Japanese may have forgotten it, but small countries all over the world did the same. And despite the vast number of small countries in the world, they're all still able to maintain their independence. That's because their respect has been accepted by larger countries. They've been allowed to exist. Yeah, like North Korea. Totally, they've been allowed to exist and been respected. It's merely something that Japan will have to remember after all these centuries, include its period of isolation. It's the common sense of the world. Are you okay? You look a little pale. You haven't started feeling your chest hurt lately, have you? Don't worry about it. Go back and have a nice, long discussion with Richard. If you can't get the Primavera leaders to agree, please come and talk to me. If you choose to be friends with us, there are ways in which we could assist you. Practically speaking, today's meeting was an ultimatum. If you don't surrender the GDS, the city might be overwhelmed at any time. The poor Japanese couldn't fight back against overwhelming economic power and overabundant physical resources. If the act of demanding that Rose make a decision wasn't an act of mercy on their part, then what was it? Even so, Wang didn't try to rush Rose into surrendering. Surely this was the dignity of a large country, of a king. The most Rose could do was postpone her answer further. The negotiations were already over. She may merely be being asked to sign the documents of surrender. She was merely being asked. If she was concerned with what would become of her convictions after surrendering, then she ought to surrender as soon as possible. During the car ride home, the nighttime scenery was reflected in Rose's tired eyes. Nighttime scenery is a people's culture. How could they stand against the economic power of the ones who had created such an overwhelming city? Japan had only managed to exist because it was protected by oceans. Now that people came pouring in over the seas, the Japanese had no way to resist. After all, for centuries, they'd refused to build up the strength to resist, and even refused to strengthen their character through a hard effort. Even their victories in war had been thanks to their first surprise attack and their momentum. Even if the great disaster never happened, we were a people fated to be destroyed and defeated. Damn right. Big dick Americans here. How foolish and weak we are. This just goes to prove that America did so much better rebuilding Japan than China would have done. That's the real fucking propaganda. Oh, God. It just sucks. Rose is in a really fucked position. And not in the good kind of fucked position. Like, if the people don't want to help themselves, what's her obligation to help them? It's just reckless operations. You're just asking for pain and suffering. Because if the people aren't willing to help themselves, how are you going to help them? It's just a waste of time and effort. Like, what are you going to do? Hope that they change? Come on, man.